What do poor people understand that rich people do not? When your parents are lying to you saying they're full when they are not so you can have the last bite. The feeling of watching all your friends go on a field trip without you because your parents couldn't afford it. Not exactly a field trip, my school never excluded you from them. Even if you couldn't pay, but when I was a junior in high school, the French club took a trip to Europe over the summer. I really wanted to go, but I knew my parents couldn't swing it, so I never even mentioned it. Well, when my friends got back, one of them had gotten me a keychain from Paris, and the horribly sad look on my mom's face broke my heart. A couple years ago I was talking about a vacation my husband and I were planning and my mom randomly said, "I wish your dad and I could have sent you to Europe when you were in high school. Thanks for breaking my heart all over again, Mom." The pressure of living to the next paycheck. They can turn off your electricity if you don't pay. That just quit and just move to another place. Super TTY pieces of advice for getting out of an unhappy situation for many. Under a certain earning level, you don't get the luxury of not liking certain foods. Ramen noodles, ground beef with the highest fat content, instant mashed potatoes, etc. I remember seeing some article mentioning how SNAP provides $4 a day for food and I wondered how anyone could live on so little. Then I did the math and realized I actually live below that amount. See, but hey, ramen is $1.94 for 12 packs. Potatoes are £3 for $1 and some change. The price of bread and milk and the essential S in life. There is no why don't you just legitimately not being able to do things due to money constraints. I had a friend who was super well off and she would get annoyed when I wouldn't be able to plan last minute trips with her. Like, I need to plan and save months ahead of time before I can afford something like that. I didn't have the luxury to be that spontaneous and she just couldn't understand that. Wealthy children also don't understand that other children don't choose to look bad or be dressed badly, or have weird possessions, or be different in general. Growing up poor, I found that poor children were more ready to accept if you did things differently because they understood that things were out of your control. Rich children, on the other hand, were far more ready to say you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to do it this way. Having to walk somewhere because you don't even have money for public transit. I worked as a waitress and broke my leg. I had to live on next to nothing for 6 weeks to get my very limited groceries. I got my crutches out and managed the 30-minute round trip to the store and back. That it is expensive enough to be poor. Desperation. Getting to a point that you will do anything to be able to feed yourself or your child. Even if it means selling your possessions. Your body. Hating holidays and birthdays as a kid because your parents want to get you things but they can't afford to. They feel guilty and you have to reassure them that it's okay to not get anything on birthdays or Christmas even though you really wish you could be like the spoiled FCKs getting cars, new gaming consoles or lots of money. Not fully filling your gas tank. I'll put in $20 each time I get low. There have been times that I've had to pay in spare change because I didn't have any other money. Just because you are smart hardworking doesn't mean you'll be successful. Where to find free food. That change is still money and adds up. It blows my mind how many people will leave change at the register when paying for something. I work tip-based jobs and love when people leave me their change on top of a tip. I collect that shit like gold. Take what the person in front of me left in the change dispenser. Pick up pennies off the ground. Fill up my mason jar. And easily get an extra $100 a month. Hunger. Water for dinner. The pleasure of deciding between keeping the heat on and eating. That having a sick injured child could literally make your family homeless. My fiance comes from a well-off family and I come from poverty. When we talk about our parents' parenting styles, He talks about how his parents had more of a let them stub their toe not break their foot kind of mentality. Whereas my parents didn't have any safety net and the smallest broken bone, hospital stay, or otherwise bad decision accident my brother and I could have made had the potential to make us homeless. He wonders why my mom is still a nervous wreck about little details even now that I'm grown up and on my own. Her life has been one perpetual avoidance of events that could put us out on the streets after the next. I don't blame her at all. When I asked this, I was sure someone would say general awareness of consequences. When a poor person screws up in a big way, they tend to suffer the full weight of the consequences. Money pays to get you out of a lot. On a related note, I've known some rich people who simply never have it occur to them that violence is a thing. Like spouting off at the mouth and generally being a dick with no fear at all that someone might be offended enough to beat the shit out of them for it. If you're poor, you know that if you mouth off to the wrong guy, you might just get punched in the face. Being sick and knowing you are on your own because you can't afford to go to the doctor, even with insurance. Using devices until they break, and most likely the device was either second-hand or cheap, nasty and designed to break early. Rich people just replace stuff because they wanted a new look. Felt like change or this new device can do something the current one couldn't. Rich people just replace stuff because they wanted a new look. My brother-in-law once set up a living room wall system for a rich person. He noticed that the flat screen TV they had would not fit in the intended place, and informed the lady of the house about the problem. She just called an electronics shop, had him tell the shop the available dimensions, and ordered a fitting new TV for immediate delivery. They came and set up the new TV. When my brother-in-law asked what to do with the old flat screen, she just told him to keep it as a bonus. That was when tubes were still common and flat screens expensive as F. The difference between being bad with money and not having money to be bad with. I've been couch surfing for months, co-living for months, but now I do okay. But I have never been able to explain poverty to friends. They always seem to think it's a series of bad choices, and not a series of shitty circumstances driving possibly bad choices. Ah yes. The infamous just set up a budget. What money do you expect me to budget? How awesome ramen packets are. How much minimum wage workers have to put up with just so they can get a measly paycheck that a rich person might make in a few hours of work while putting up with a fraction of the shitty. All here just leave as advice for getting out of a bad environment. Sometimes people can't just quit a job when they are being mistreated because it's their only means of survival. Bad people know how to prey on people who are stuck in a situation. That applies to jobs, relationships, homes, whatever. I was eating fried chicken from Walmart in the office lunchroom. There's this super snooty VP, but we're cool for some reason. He walks up to me and says, "Fried chicken from Walmart? EWW. It was $6 for 8 piece and I don't care." He's now hovering over me inspecting the box it came in and reads in a confused voice, "EBT accepted. What does that mean? Full stop." I start cracking up and tell him, "That's Walmart's credit card." He looked at me dead ass and said, "Walmart has a credit card? Full stop." That the bucket of squid you convinced a deckhand to give you for $5 isn't just bait. It is quite possibly also dinner, and breakfast, and lunch. Also, squid goes through the freeze-thaw cycle better than most bait's food. The concept of cutting down shower time and or scheduling showers. Not necessarily to save money on water bills, although this is part of it, but also because you have as many roommates as possible to make the cost of living affordable. And you probably only have one shower to share. Not being able to afford everything you want or need. How expensive healthcare is. Having to live in a shitty area because you can't afford to move. Not having a reliable or consistent means of transportation. Because either your car is junk, or you don't have a car and have to pay for public transportation. The importance of being generous and sharing what you have. Seems a little counterintuitive, but I think poor people are better at sharing. My relatively poor immigrant family growing up always shared with friends and relatives. I married a fairly wealthy girl and she has never been good at sharing. Rich people don't need to rely on anyone else, so they tend not to lend a hand. 1-ply toilet paper. Tea is awful. Trying to act excited hearing about what all the other kids at school got for Christmas. And then trying to lie about getting absolutely nothing. The full extent to which employment allows someone else to exercise power over you. A financially secure person will never submit to sexual harassment, bullying, or other exploitation for the sake of a job. It's expensive to be poor. If you don't have $5 for a 10-pack of toilet paper, it's $1 per roll at the liquor store. Public transportation costs more than owning a car, so you can never save up to own a car. Late fees and overdraft charges. Inefficient appliances wasting energy. It's really hard to dig out of that hole. The fear. Scared CPS would come and take us away. Scared our classmates would see the fleas jumping off our clothes. Scared we would be caught with lies again. Or friends would be volunteering at the food bank we went to. Fear of no food. I keep my pantry incredibly to stock now. Being laughed at for getting free hot lunch. Edited to add the embarrassment of food stamps. Back in the day when they actually were paper vouchers. Close bracket. Also. Lack of experiences. No. I didn't go ice skating. Or visit the pool. Or travel. Or take music lessons. Or have TV stations. Just a VHS player and the movies Unforgiven. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom and Mars Attacks. How to stretch $1. I can buy more than one thing in a thrift store with $20. Love thrift stores and it's a damn good thing too. My parents were solid middle class but wanted to spend money on experiences, not things. They always shopped thrift. Now that I'm at poverty income levels, knowing how to thrift has come in so handy. The misery of always saying no. To both others and yourself. Having a nap for breakfast. Lunch and dinner. Wearing ripped clothes because no money for new ones. Or dirty clothes because no money to buy laundry detergent. Hating having to do your homework because you have no heating and you have to take your hands out from under the covers so they would be f***ing numb by the time you would be done writing your homework. After the market crash in 1987, there were some wealthy white men who took their own lives and many more who were destroyed emotionally as well as financially due to the reversal of fortunes. On the news, a poor inner city man basically said they were nuts for becoming so distraught just because they no longer had as much money. He said you just get past it and shook his head. How to repair things. Right? As a person who was born poor and managed to claw my way up to the low middle class, I can fix almost f***ing anything now. Cars. Furniture. Plumbing. Welding. Painting. Seriously. I cannot afford to pay some guy $30 an hour when I can figure it out myself or YouTube that shit at the very worst. I may not be a master of anything, but I'll fix whatever it is myself in the end. I feel like poor people understand what it's like to do without. Like they know that they aren't always going to have things they want. But they can make do. They know how to stretch things out and make them last. FCK yes. I think someone else posted the difference between need and want, which speaks to this well. 2. I just moved across the country and have been sleeping on an air mattress for about 3 months. I wanted to make sure all my ducks were in a row. Salary dropped. But I am much happier. Before I dropped $1,000 on a nice bed. This is totally f***ing weird to everyone I know. I don't need a bed. This works fine for now. And I can definitely make do. I will get something better when it makes sense. Being scared of stairwells. Jiffy cornbread muffin mix. What it's like to find a $20 in your coat pocket you forgot about. Edit. And be very happy to see it. Dear f-king word. I forgot the most important part of this. Colon. How to stretch a dollar. It's really hard to have limited to no means and try to feed a family while working 2 jobs. Also, they'll never understand what it's like to be vilified because they may need help. Fetch the dollar stretcher. At least in America, that the culture of worshipping money and materialism subject poor people to a collective contempt by society who believes poverty is a just and deserved state for those who do not work hard enough or fail to seize the allegedly great amount of opportunities to make a fortune. Rich people are admired for their wealth, and capitalism whispers to everybody that their life is a success. That it is desirable from an ethical point of view. Of course, we are regularly reminded that this is a myth and that rich people can be unhappy too. But still, in our culture, everything, our values, the media, they all tell us that getting rich is the ne plus ultra. What would you do if you won the lottery? Which job pay more? The difference between need and want. Being poor is shockingly expensive. How what they spend on a fancy meal with the family could change my life. The feeling when you've had the same clothes and 2 pairs of shoes for years. Mostly hand-me-downs. Oh, and paper towels torn in pieces instead of toilet paper. I've stolen rolls from work because we couldn't afford it. Or used rags. My husband grew up rich and cannot understand why I can't throw food away and hoard leftovers. Truly struggling. Unless it's someone who grew up poor and got rich. The wealthy have absolutely no clue what struggling really is. Hell, I'm considered middle class and don't have a grasp of really struggling. That canned cat food is sufficient to sustain human life. It's not for sustenance. It's to work in combination with the glow you have to knock you out before the feral cats start meowing. Canned cat food is pretty expensive, my dude. Compound interest. Rich people equals bank, stock market, etc. Enlisting in the military. And to that end, literally enlisting. I saw a study recently that had a breakdown of military service for the US based on socio-economic class at the time of enlistment. The conclusion was basically that upper middle class, lower upper class tended to commission as officers because they could more readily afford college and sought degreed careers. Commissioning was seen as a means of networking, if you've seen The Crown. Philip cites this as why he joined the Navy instead of pursuing his dream with the RAF. The enlisted force tended to be lower middle class people who saw military service as a duty and means of starting a career. Many enlisted leave the service as middle or upper middle class. Lower class people tended to not enlist due to either seeing the system as failing them, and therefore saw no duty to join, or had small-scale criminal offenses that barred them from service. The study was basically testing the idea that the poor fight the wars for the kings. It turns out that the lower middle class fights the wars